3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
Alright, we're back out here. Got the golf cart covered just in case it rains, because it's now a garage queen. Just like this one. Always make sure they're covered now outside. But, so I'm going to start, I think today, I finished the jig up. We all saw that. I think I'm going to start tearing apart the rear end. Just get a few things off of there. Pan hard bar needs to come off, sway bar, and I gotta take the exhaust out to drop it, and then my brake lines that are going to get new quick release fittings. These are dry brake fittings, is what they're called. We'll put them on the brake lines because we're going to do this for the rear, and we're going to do it for the front suspension as well. The reason for this is on the brake lines, that way if anything gets damaged and we got to do a quick swap on any of the suspension, especially now with the independent rear, there's more components, a little bit easier to bend control arms in the rear than a solid axle. So we want to be ready where we can just quickly disconnect the brake line and snap a new one in with all the other suspension components. So can do that real quick as I'm tearing the rear apart. It's just gonna get a union fitting here on the T, and then the dry brake will come right off of it. And yeah, we're just gonna tinker away today. I don't think we'll get too deep into it because once that goes in, all the big stuff happens. So I'll need a little bit more time than I have tonight. But yeah, a little bit each day. Alright, so got everything prepped out. Exhaust is off, drive shaft is out, sway bar is off, pan hard bar is off, not the brace though. Might take that out before, might take it out after. But yeah, pretty much ready to drop this thing. And the brake lines there showed you. But yeah, maybe tomorrow if Tori has some time, we'll drop it down and put this thing up there to see how it fits and what clearance we have. Main thing is just going to be able to see the clearance here in this area. Don't know how close this gets to the body of the car, so I just need to see how high the diff can sit before we have any issues. So what I'm going to do for now is there's a few things on this that I know need to get cut off, and I'm going to start with these exhaust hangers on each side, and then I know that these ears are going to be in the way for what we're trying to do. So I'm going to start with getting those cut off of here before we put it in, just because I know it's something that we got to do. And yeah, we're going to start there and see where we get. The reason I'm okay with cutting these off, because I mean, originally I thought about just keeping them on here because I could actually build the plate off of this to mount for the front of the IRS. But what I'll probably do is, if I need to put, I'm gonna have to put a plate here basically, because I'm gonna want to mount these front bolts here. but I believe that it's going to sit back far enough that I'm gonna have to make my own brackets anyways. So I'm kind of assuming with the old eyeball, but I'm gonna go for it anyways. Doesn't hurt to weld stuff on. So gonna get those two things cut off today, and that's probably all I'm gonna get done. And we'll see if I get super ambitious and try and drop the rear end by myself. But if not, I'll be doing it tomorrow. I got the rear end pulled, so I was able to get all the components out. I was having trouble with this guy here. It looks like this bolt actually stripped for some reason. Don't know why, but got it out. It's on the stands. What I'm gonna do is actually pull all the brake stuff off. Pull the rotor, pull these calipers because I am gonna be using these, and leave everything else as is. Actually, I'm not even gonna pull these yet because this will go back in the car after I get everything finished there, because we'll need to be able to roll it around. So probably just keep everything on it for now. Won't mess with it, but I got to get it onto a dolly somehow. Don't know how. And then I got to pull the panhard bar, which was a pain to put in, so I'm hoping it's not too bad to take out. We'll see. Alright, so I got the panhard bar pulled out. Put it all back together like it was, just in case. And the next appropriate thing to do was get the IRS brackets in. So as you can see, bolt right into the frame like they're meant to be there. I got some nice hardware from Full Tilt Boogie, and actually these brackets I welded up because they were just stitch weld multi-piece, so I went through and TIG welded them and make sure they're all real strong one piece. But yeah, so all that's in, fit good. I had to clean the threads because obviously when we powder coated this stuff, it yeah, a little powder coat got in there. So I just took the wire real quick, like this guy, and cleaned them out, and then everything threaded in real nice. So it's basically ready for the subframe. I just have to figure out how I'm gonna do it and if I'm gonna do it tonight. Tori and I got the diff out of the way and the subframe into the car. It's getting real. A lot of things to think about here. Pinion angles, pinion offset. Do I need to offset? What do I need to do? Where do I cut? Where do I mount? I kind of have an idea, but like don't. So we're figuring it out as I stand here for an hour and just stare at it. Yeah, I'm not really like a cut once, weld it back together kind of guy. I really like to process it and think of what I'm doing before I do it. So probably not going to get too far tonight, but yeah. Other than that, everything looks pretty good. And I didn't want to show this. On this side, we have a little bit of an issue with the bracket. I didn't want to show this because this car was hit way back when. And there's a slight offset on just the rear frame rail, right where the mounting points are for this Cobra IRS. And I saw it before. It's been in the back of my head knowing that when we go put this up, it might not work. So obviously mounting it in, we have 3 of the 4 spots mounted in the exact spot they need to be in. But there's a little bit of an issue here. It didn't change any of the geometry of the suspension. It's fine. But it just offset it enough that the bolts don't fit. Which sucks. Wish this car was perfect, but it's not. We know. But really having the 3 of the 4 spots, everything's supposed to be where it's supposed to be with the subframe. The only issue is the bracket. So I'm going to modify the bracket, make it fit. Everything else will be able to be square. I'm not too worried about it. I'll probably take some measurements just so I get over it, figure my shit out. But yeah, so gotta fix that first. That's the first thing we're gonna do, is modify that a little bit so it works. And I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. And the spots where the subframe go, they are slotted. So we were talking about putting the washers in it so it doesn't slide. I don't think it will. I don't know if I want to add that, welding in a piece so that it doesn't slide, because I'm worried about when we go to put it back in, it's going to be a real pain in the ass, as it already is. So that's the first thing to work on. And I'm going to take this one bracket out and modify that, get everything mounted perfect before I cut anything, obviously. And then, yeah, the next thing is going to be basically cutting this back part, making sure everything's mounted solid, cutting this back part, lifting the diff in, seeing what we got going on. So gonna try and get that done, and then tomorrow's Friday, so I will get just cranking on this thing. I got the crusty old control arms in here because I was just real curious. I've never really looked closely at Cobras, honestly. There's not been a lot that we worked on. When we pulled this, I wasn't really looking at anything. We were just trying to get it out of the car. So I wanted to get the control arms in here and kind of see the travel that we have, like what's going on here, how everything looks. And we'll put more suspension in as we go. We're not using this stuff. We're going to get some other things. But kind of shows you, there's quite a bit of travel, especially in the upper control arm. If my control arm needs to go that high, we're doing some real crazy stance boy shit. So, yeah. Anyways, enough talking. I continue to think as I talk, so I'm gonna get going on the mount and more after that. You guys, I didn't pick this camera up yesterday, but on the time lapse, as you saw, we got the back part of the subframe cut out so we can actually fit the quick change in. So here it is. Right now it's positioned in there, basically centered and not as high as I want it to be. So as you can see here, it's pretty close. It needs to come this way a little bit and up a little. And I have these brought up so it's relatively close to ride height. And yeah, we ran into our first clearance issues. Yeah, the little mounts on the side hit where your tow rods or toe links, whatever they're called, mount. It's a little too far out, so we have some contact there with these mounts, which is kind of a bummer. And on this side, which doesn't allow the diff to come this way, and we need to go towards the rear of the car for the axles, and because we're contacting up there with the back of the bell housing, or the housing center section, not the bell housing, center section. So got a little more cutting to do. This is going to be a huge part of, you know, making a cut, putting it back in, realigning, looking at it, pulling it back out, make a cut. You know how it works. This is not a quick and easy job, especially now when you're looking for critical placement of this diff that is not meant to go in the subframe, and it's not a straight bolt in and or weld in plates. I'm gonna have to make everything by hand. So yeah, I want the diff up a little bit more, and I'm trying to avoid notching the back of the subframe. I might not be able to avoid it. What I am going to do is take these toe link mounting points, not changing the mounting point, but we're simply going to cut off the backside plate enough to where we will be able to slide the diff forward a little bit more, and then I'll replate the back of them. And that should give us a little more clearance to move it back and up. So we shall see. So the whole other thing that we have to keep in mind while we're doing this is how high the diff is, because we're building this based off of where that transmission is. And we got to have we don't want to have a ton of pinion angle right now. And right now we have a little bit too much. I don't like it. I can just eyeball it and see that there's going to be some pretty decent pinion angle in it. And I want to bring that up and not remake mounts there, because we know I have my headers made. I have my cutout, my trans tunnel for the side shifter, and a bunch of stuff. So trying to avoid that. We'll see. I don't think it'll go that far, but basically we'll ignore that, try and set this to it, mount everything in. My main goal is to try and get it enough to where I at least have this mounted pretty well tonight. So we'll see. It's 6 o'clock. Yeah, so enough of that. I'm going to go ahead and get those cut out, and I'm going to get the plates made at the same time to weld them back in, tack them in, because we got to make sure that we have our distances correct so it slides right in. It's got to be dead nuts perfect. But it's a pretty critical point to have this set up correctly for the rest of the car to act the way you want it to. So I'm really just taking my time, you know, trying to figure out exactly how I want to do this before I start cutting and welding stuff in. Make sure things are high enough, not too low. And I've never done one before, so yeah, pretty complicated thing we got going on here with a lot of unknown variables, with not having, you know, being able to set our stuff at ride height, because we've never run an IRS, so we don't know what ride height is. We don't know. I'd have to press in bearings, put on the wheel hubs, put the springs in, lay it on the ground, and figure out ride height, and then go from there. So might be what I have to do, but for the most place I can fit this thing up in there. I'm probably going to take everything out, put my springs on, and yeah. I'm lost, so we'll see. All right. So here's the update. Pulled that back out, and I got my shocks in without the springs. And basically, I talked to our good buddy Joe Lynn, which you guys have seen Joe before. He's super smart about all this stuff and setting up suspension, and he's put quick changes in before. So I was talking to him, and he said the main thing I need to do right now is get my ride height to be able to tell where the diff needs to be. So I'm getting everything set up for that. I have to press wheel bearings into my knuckles because I got new ones, which this kind of sucks because I might have to press them out later on. So we're gonna get that in, tighten everything up, and then we'll put the wheel hub on with and we'll put the stock axles in and just hold it with the nut, but don't put the axles into anything, obviously. And I'll be able to go through and get my ride height set on the springs. And then from there, we should be set to know what the height of the diff needs to be for the axles. And that'll help a lot with figuring out what I need to do here. And then I'll be able to start getting mounts in and everything. So I'll try to walk through that process. I didn't do it originally on this car in the rear end. Joe actually did it. So he's going to walk me through how to set it up, and then I'll kind of relay that information from him so some of you guys know how to set up the rear ends in your car and get your shock height. Okay. So I told you guys I was going to get the ride heights, so that way I know kind of where to place the diff for axle height. Got everything in. Put it all in. I had to press the bearings. Probably not the best way to press the bearings, but it doesn't matter. I'm gonna have to press these ones out and put new ones in anyways. So that kind of sucks, but it's fine. I don't care. I'm just gonna get these ride heights so I can do this 100% right. I have the ceiling. I'm gonna do all this and then go and put the diff back up in, and it's gonna be the height that I had it at, that I was pretty confident in. But I want to do this right. I want to do it correct the first time. Don't want to have to redo things when it doesn't work well. So taking an extra step. I'm pretty pissed off, pretty annoyed right now, so I'm going to call it a night and come back refreshed in the morning and get these ride heights and pull the axles and get back to it. Basically, yeah, everything's in, and yeah, I'll work on all that tomorrow. It's okay. Sometimes you just gotta reset. And it's only 1 in the morning. Peace.